Okay, so what should be our response at the highest level, right? So these are some thoughts that that we have included in our abstract for this webinar. First thing is you got to secure your team, right? You got to minimize the impact on your folks that work for your organization and your customers and your support and so forth. So that's the number one priority of many organizations and executives, to make sure that your staff is safe and healthy and safeguarded, essentially, so they can perform the best they can in this environment. That's a challenge, right? Because um, I'll talk a little bit about remote work and what the challenge is, and I'll just kind of share my own story, I guess, just to see what I'm dealing with. But minimize the impact on organization supply chain. Next thing is, because the supply chain is global for most of our customer base, um, it is difficult, to say the least. Initially, it's, of course, we all know it started with China, spread across other regions. So if your supply chain is global, like Boeing, which is impacted significantly with this crisis and other crises, even internal to them. So, supply chain is an example. Now we're seeing the same thing spread into auto industry and certainly retail. We've all been to stores, not able to find toilet papers to just bring it home to many of us that have been just trying to get through our days. So yeah, supply chain impact is visible; it's everywhere. So how do we minimize that? If you're a Boeing, you're a GM, or if you're if you're a financial institution for that matter, minimize the impact upon service delivery, right? So service is what keeps our customers at the end of the day with us, whether you're a product company or a service company, processing their orders from your warehouse to them. That's really important. When you click that buy button on Amazon, you expect it to show up the next day. And our UPS workers, our delivery trucks, and all that, those people are taking chances and continuing to maintain that service for us. Same thing with car service or whatever you're using. So delivery is a key part of whether you're a product company or service company. You have to take care of your customers, and visibility around that is also a challenge. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Your IT infrastructure is impacting. That's another obvious sign. A lot of our clients have been talking to this last couple of weeks is just asking how they're doing, last month or so now. And I think not everybody's set up for VPN, right? We all assume that VPN is just automatically available to everybody, but companies have licensing issues and they have to increase their licenses because they didn't plan for all employees to be remote, or 80-90% of them to be remote. So they're having to provision access, or people don't, simple things like don't remember their passwords because they never use the VPN. So there's that wave, but I think that's coming to an end. It was kind of the first response, if you will, for moving employees home. So, but it's putting a different kind of stress on your IT systems, right? Because you have fewer people manning the service desk, or you may have fewer people that can maintain infrastructure, right? Because they can't get to the location where they need to go under the quarantine process, or shelter at home, as we call it here in US. So those are some of the areas where IT infrastructure can get impacted because you're relying on that infrastructure to get through this remote work. So minimizing the impact on that is really important. Reducing financial impact, of course, all of this leads to financial impact, and we talked a bit about the airlines. So being able to understand what's happening and then being able to protect that the best you can. And ultimately, if you do all those other things, what should happen is your corporate reputation is intact. So doing the right thing and protecting your brand and what you stand for, your mission, that's really important to getting through this time. The decisions we make will reflect on our brand for many years to come. And ultimately, I think the silver lining is we will return to normality, right? We will get there, hopefully sooner rather than later, but we don't know for sure. So we got to start thinking about that. Is where is the resilience, and when does it come back to the organization, and what are the steps to get there? So enabling the organization to think and prepare for that normality when we're back to normal.